Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast is the Darkest Timeline. Got to put a disclaimer on this one, I'm afraid. There is some content, not some grammar. There is some content in this podcast that may be triggering for some people and may be difficult. It's one of those, it comes up not once but twice. I do mention it beforehand, so it will be mentioned. It's early, it's later. If this one's not for you, you might want to skip it, or you might want to just check in on the bits that are for you. But I do want to mention it before we get started. And before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And the big one, the one that makes us all happy, is do please share the podcast around. Word of mouth is a wonderful thing. And if you could share it, that would be great. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the Darkest Timeline. Hello. How you doing? I need to do a disclaimer, but before that, I need to rejoice at starting a podcast early. Early. That's right, early. If you've been listening over the last few months, you might be able to guess what disclaimer's coming. As previous times, there are going to be things in this podcast that may be triggering or cause issues for some people. I will put it on the intro as well, bearing in mind that I might remember, I might not, so I'm doing it now as well. Some things in this episode might be not for your liking. So there is that. If you've listened over the last few months, like I say, probably can guess what it's going to be, so you might already be aware. If not, there might be sort of grounds to go back and listen to previous episodes, or just prepare yourself. It comes up a couple of times because it's over a course of a week. But it is not the first thing to discuss. First item to discuss is one of those things where I was like, I don't know how best to talk about this. And generally, that means I end up being really vague, which I think can be really annoying. I'm never too sure, but it does seem like it's probably annoying if I'm like, well, there was this thing, but I can't tell you what it was, so there you go. It feels in that sort of vein of, then why did you bother? Answers on a postcard on that one. It's December. It's December at the moment. December is a difficult time of year in many different ways. One of those ways is financially. I think everybody can agree that it's probably the hardest, most difficult time of year. For me, it is this time of year and May, because apparently every single human on the face of the earth was born in May. So it's a very difficult time. I have put a series of things in place which run throughout the year. I've got birthdays start in January for me. Birthdays start, so I need to be in a position to come out of the back of that word, the C word. No, not that one. And straight into a birthday. So I need to be financially in a position to do that. And then You've got like that point of the year where you've got like your big yearly bills to pay. Then you've got, summer holidays, etc. By then I've had like 50% of the birthdays of the year. But then you've got a situation where you've got like bigger birthdays as it gets into the year and on and on and on. But I think we can all agree December is hands down the most expensive time of the year. So I decided many moons ago that I would put a series of things in place to make sure that to the best of my ability I would be financially able to cope. One of those things where years ago, 20 years ago, I would have started buying for Christmas. I can probably say it in the second week of December and not feel like it's a dirty word. I started buying for Christmas in September. When I got paid in September, that was the official time to start Christmas shopping, which for a man who doesn't agree Christmas starts until at least the 1st of December, honestly, I'd like another week out of it personally, but hey, I've resigned myself to the 1st. Apparently, I'm the last man to turn up to the party because we now put our decorations up in September. So years and years ago, I used to start in September. However, through a series of different things, I am now in a position where I can just do it in December. And that's not strictly true. There are a couple of other things. I'd already bought something, a couple of bits here and there, and then I'd already done X amount of shopping already. So it's getting to December. I was like, right, I need to save some money here, and the way to do that is this really elaborate thing. I need to take money from here and put it here. I need to take money from there and put it there. And I need to put money from this position into a different position. So I needed to move all of these bits of money to save money. The whole goal was to save some money. And not in the put it in your savings account kind of save, as in the get things cheaper kind of way. So, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things that can go wrong. So, things went wrong. Is the simple way to put it. Things went just. So there's a situation where you're like, oh man, that didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. Then there's a situation where you're like, oh, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, and it got worse. But this is a situation where it was things didn't work out the way I wanted it to, and it got worse, and it kept going, and it became the literal worst possible scenario. Hands down worst possible scenario. It was literally like, I physically do not think I could have made it any worse. And for something that starts at the beginning of December, it is still going on now. And every day it gets worse. And every day I'm like, today's the day that it's the boat's going to right itself. Today is the day it's going to be okay. Got to Friday last week and I was like, it still hasn't started. It'd been going on for over a week at that point. Honestly, I ended up in a situation today. I had a conversation today where I was like, I need to buy this series of things for my children. Each one of them's getting one. One of them's getting like a collection of things, like just things that you need to get. And I said, if I'd have bought them a week ago, it wasn't even a week ago, it was 2 weeks ago. If I'd have bought them 2 weeks ago, I'd have saved that much money that I could have paid for half of what I'm going to pay out now. I'm just like, okay, well, I have to look at it in the sense that exactly the same thing happened last. Exactly the same thing happened. The exact same thing happened last year. And I went, wow, that was a terrible way of doing things. I really must learn from this experience and not let it happen again. Here we are, exactly 1 year later, and I'm going, yep, here we are again. So I'm swearing down. Next year it'll be different. Okay, here we go. This is the thing that I warned about at the start, and hopefully, if I remember, it's in the intro. Today, about an hour and a half ago, I officially ended an 8-day fast. So, what does that mean? If you're new here, what that means is that I haven't eaten solid food for 8 days. How is that possible, I hear you ask? It's a modified version of a water fast, as in I'm not hitting the bone broth anytime soon. Instead, I am using coffee, which for me has 1 sugar in, and bought coffee. If I buy a coffee, it is my coffee is a caramel latte, so it's got milk and a shot of caramel in, and that is how I've done it. And this is the 3rd time that I've done this, and I can say categorically this one's the hardest. This one has been the hardest because, unlike previous fasts, I've been hungry in this one. Like, really hungry. Like, I've had 2 days in the last 8 days where I've been hungry all day. And I don't mean like, ooh, a bit peckish. I mean like angry, growling stomach for the entire time I'm awake. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, that's a clear sign that you should have probably eaten something. Yes. By day 4, I was prepared to tap out. I've been very hungry. I've had an issue which I'm actually dealing with right now. If you hear me drinking a lot, which I know is an issue for this podcast anyway. I have this weird taste in my mouth. It developed on the 2nd day. The only way I can describe it is it's the taste of soap. I can taste soap in my mouth. It's been for the 2nd day of the fast. It was the entire day. It was awful. I've had it on and off since. I was going to say mints. Obviously not mints. Chewing gum and brushing of the teeth seems to relieve it at times, but at other times it doesn't. So I've chewed a lot of gum last week. So a couple of the downsides there. Upsides, I have shed weight this last week like I was giving it away. I lost. So what I've been saying is I've lost a stone, which isn't 100% true. I've lost 12 pounds, but over the last 2 weeks, I've lost a stone. The reason I'm saying it's a stone is that when I weighed myself last Monday, I was actually annoyed that I'd not only lost weight, I'd lost a couple of pounds and couldn't understand why. Wasn't sure why that was. I was just in a maintenance phase at that point. So dropping a couple of pounds was a real surprise. So I'm considering that I've lost a stone. Weird maths, maybe, but hey. Other plus sides, by dropping this weight, I am now I'm the lowest weight I have been in 6 years, I think it is. What's weird, and again, one of those where I've called it today, but there are plans afoot. I've called it today, but I was literally 3 pounds away my lowest weight in, I don't think I can actually work it out. I walked out of the shortest way to put it is I walked out of hospital at the lowest weight I'd been in 10, 15 years or something. Which is a whole other story, which one day I might actually tell you. But I was very much like, hey, there are some benefits to this. I dropped a stone in a week, etc., etc. It's kind of where all of this fasting's come from, but again, that's a different story for another day. I am 3 pounds away from that weight, and that would have been that was my lowest weight in, like I don't know, something weird like 15 years or something. It would be insane. Probably not. It was probably more like 10 years. So, yes, obviously that is an achievement. Obviously, I don't recommend this to anybody. I don't even recommend it to myself, even though I keep doing it. The big goal here is to now keep the weight off. I've already put in place, basically by breaking the fast, I have had one small meal, and I'm hoping very much that it doesn't affect the weight too badly when I step on the scales in the morning. I will come back to this later in the podcast. Unfortunately, if you do struggle with this sort of stuff, I will come back to it, but just for a small update on some stuff from today, which is obviously from today, and this is from the last week. It's December. I've always, for as long as I can remember, had one goal and one goal only in December, and that is to lose a stone, no matter what the December is. It's to lose a stone. The idea being that I'll finish out this year having dropped, I think, the best part of 2 stone, which obviously that's an achievement there. And I'm starting to think that there's a possibility of going further, but yeah, we'll see. Like I say, this will come up again, yeah. Quick sort of climbing based chat. I've not really talked about climbing that much recently because of a particular reason, which, funnily enough, I'm going to go through now. I've struggled a lot recently with climbing. Obviously, it was something that I spent a lot of time talking about because it was new. It's not as new these days, and it's been not a lot of fun recently. Not really fun at all, which has brought me to the last couple of weeks where I've sort of and ahed about the future of climbing. I basically reached a point last week where I looked around, saw the room, and was like, I think I might be done with this. I know we've been through this before, but basically there's been this thing where new routes get set, and even the lowest grade was not possible. So basically, what's the point in going? So I made a decision, and that decision was that I thought I'd probably give up. Take from that what you will. You know, I know there are people who are like, well, maybe you should have just got better. And if you want to debate that, I'm happy to sit down and have a long drawn out conversation about why that's not necessarily possible, and go through the ins and outs. But that's probably not for now. I decided if I went on Saturday and the new sets were as previously been set, then it was probably time to move on to other things. I always have this thing about, you know, getting back to long distance running and things like that. So, you know, it would just be replace one thing with another thing. So, rock up Saturday morning. Oh, what is this? New sets. A lot of new sets. And they look interesting. They look strange. They look weird almost, in the sense that they look doable. Somebody then highlights that they have changed the grade for the new set, and the grade has been lowered. Now, word on the street, rumour mill, is that somebody has gone to the setters, and in turn has ended up in a conversation with one of the owners and said, look, people are leaving, people are not coming back, people are not coming because it's just too hard. So I think the owner has then said to the setters, okay, so make it easier. And the setters have said, then you need to lower your grade. And the owner has said, then lower the grade. And that's ultimately what's ended up happening. So, what does this mean? Well, I managed to flash all of the lowest grade ones. I was very happy with that. And then managed to move on to the next grade up. And I've managed to flash my third ever next grade up. The unfortunate thing on a Saturday is it's very busy, but I'll be there a couple of mornings through the week to see what else is achievable. The problem you've got is that now you've got all this new stuff to go at. The old stuff has very little interest, and the new stuff is like, this is what I want to be doing. Somebody showed me like the fourth grade, and I looked at it and was like, I reckon I could give that a go. So, yes, very, very interesting. Very interesting for me. It's December. December's weird for seeing all of my children. There's a lot of come and watch dancing, come and watch nativities, come and listen to singing, there's a lot of that through December. But actually spending physical time with all of my children, there's very little, which is strange in a lot of ways. It's, you know, it feels very much like a time of year where you should spend more time with people, but whatever. So I was like, right, I need to make this time, the time we spend together, as special as possible. So I planned a movie night for one of my daughters, and I invited some friends, and none of her friends could come because they were either busy or away or blah, 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 blah. And one of the friends that I'd invited, I didn't hear anything from. So I was like, oh, okay, well, she's got a friend coming, and that friend is like what I would consider a friend of the family, and that'll be fine. They'll have a great time. And then literally last minute, message out of the blue, is it still okay for this child to go? And I'm like, absolutely, no problem at all. Do you want me to pick them up? And they're like, no, we'll drop them off. So, I planned it all. And I think with things like this, I think my biggest downfall is that I have an image of it in my head. And the image in my head is that you get a load of kids together, you sit them down, you tuck them in a blanket, you give them some popcorn and some hot chocolate, and you put a movie on, and they all have a wonderful time watching a Christmas film, hot chocolate, popcorn, and then the film finishes and they have a little bit of a play or whatever, and then home to bed for them and bed for mine, and that's that. Obviously, you can have an image in your head of something. That's rarely what happens, is it? So, my daughter's friends turn up, and I'm like, cool. I was like, we're going to put this film on, we're going to do this, and this. I'll try and make sure to dial back anything sweet well before. I was like, I'll get it all done early. Problem solved. I get them in, I get them sat down, I get the movie on. And I'm like, right, everybody want hot chocolate? Yeah. Everybody want popcorn? Yeah. Right, okay, I'll go and do that. So I'm backwards and forwards. Here's a hot chocolate, put it there. Here's one. I'm doing popcorn now. Sweet and salty and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yay. Away we go. I'm very, very sort of... Leanne was saying the first hour was fine. I was like, I don't think it was an hour. The film was 90 minutes. And it's, it certainly wasn't 2/3 of the way through. Basically descended into absolute chaos. And I looked around at the situation and I went, yep, this is absolutely my fault. Because each of those individual components, fine, great, wonderful, no problem whatsoever. Each of those components together is a recipe for disaster. This I discovered later in the process, because largely, if I said to my children, here's a movie, here's some popcorn, here's a hot chocolate, they would sit and watch a movie, drink a hot chocolate, eat some popcorn, and have a whale of a time. But my children aren't like other children. So I kept popping in and I'm like, what? I thought we were watching a film. There's running up and down. The dog was going ballistic. The dog had to be shut in 3 times. He had to go in his den 3 times over the course of that evening because he just couldn't handle it. My eldest daughter, she bailed on the situation. She was like, I'd rather go and sit with the younger ones and watch Paw Patrol or whatever they were watching. I think they were watching a film about a unicorn. So I'd rather go and watch that than sit in the chaos. And it just escalated. It just went up and up and up and up and up and up and up. And I'm sat in the kitchen with my head in my hands like, this was a terrible idea. Because, like I said, each of those individual components, fine. Put those components together, not so fine. All I could think was, this is how I'll do it differently in the future. I've had situations where I'm like, I'm going to take these 8, 9 children to the cinema and gone, well, that could have been a lot worse. Versus 3 kids sat on the sofa. So this was one of those situations where it was literally just nothing but taking learns away from this one. And then the next day, me and my daughter had a moment in the morning where I was like, Did you enjoy your film? Did you enjoy having your friends on? Yes. All right. Did you? Yeah. And then she rattled through all the different things, all the individual things. Thanked me for each individual thing. Thanked me for letting them come and for letting her have it and for letting them do it and for letting them have popcorn and hot chocolate and stuff. And I was like, ultimately, I guess that was the whole point of it. I wanted her to have a nice time. I wanted her to have a good memory. I wanted her to have a special treat in December and all of those sorts of things. And that's what happened. She highlighted each of the individual things that she'd really enjoyed. It was like, she was thanked me a lot for all of those things. And I was like, oh, that was the point. The point was that she was supposed to have a nice time, and she said she did. So that was kind of that, really. I needed to go to a supermarket yesterday. Now, bear in mind, I am aware that it is December. But when you need AdBlue and bacon, not much for it, is there? My car lied to me. My car was like, hey, you need some AdBlue. Like, cool. And I had a very long-winded conversation about bacon, which is far too much to go into. But I had to go to the supermarket for AdBlue and bacon. So, I had a plan. My plan was set. The plan was to basically get there for opening, walk in, pick up some AdBlue, go to the bacon, pick up some bacon, pay, leave, come home. Well, I was even thinking of taking them all for like a drink sort of treat type thing. Whole different thing. I get there not long after opening, and no surprises, it's already carnage, chaos. I go to the AdBlue, I get the AdBlue. Job one, done. I go off to get some bacon. Now, in actual fact, I bought 3 different types of bacon. Again, another long story, probably doesn't need to go into. But I did buy 3 different types of bacon. There's a part of me that thinks if you want to sort of experience the worst part of this holiday, just take yourself to a supermarket. Some of the things, some of the conversations. I heard a woman and a guy having a conversation, and she said, shall we get it was like a joint of something. And he was like, why? She's like, just to have. He's like, why? Like, for in the week. Like, but why? And his point was clearly, why do that? We don't need it. Her point was clearly, well, you never know, just in case. The supermarket will be closed for at least 12 hours. What will we do in that time? The 2 things that were the most baffling for me. 1, not a single person in that building seemed to know where they were going. There was this whole aimless wandering in diagonal directions, which meant that everybody was in everybody else's way, and vice versa. The other thing, and this will never I'll never understand this. I do, and there is a part of me that does get it, and I do understand, and I'm kind of with you, but also the insanity of it all. I've never seen trolleys piled so high. Trolleys overflowing. I saw families with 2 overflowing trolleys dragging them around, and people emptying entire containers of things off the shelf into their trolleys. And I looked around and I was like, because this is ultimately it. How many of these people here are religious? How many of these people are saying, I need to buy this ham to celebrate the birth of Jesus? Or how many people are like, it's Christmas? Well, Christmas is just another word for, I can't think, capitalism, is it? Is that the one? The word that means that it's just about making massive amounts of money for humongous corporations. And I know this is a subject that keeps coming up and keeps coming up and keeps coming up. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I just looked around and I was like, all Christmas is a company's chance to sell more, to get more money. But everybody drives that money towards, and bearing in mind what I said at the start of this podcast, everybody drives that money towards that 1 month. Somebody explained Black Friday once, and they were saying Black Friday is called Black Friday because it's the only day that companies were in the black. The rest of the year, they're losing money, but that one day was the one day where companies were making money. And then they made a thing out of it and charged less for stuff. I don't know. So I had an idea. I was like, maybe it's time to do things differently. My house, my family, we are not what I would call religious. Take from that what you want. That's just the way it is for us. I then work on the principle that a lot of the things that we do around religious holidays are kind of hypocritical. In fact, they're probably really hypocritical. You can't be like not religious and celebrate Christmas, celebrate Easter, even things like having a day off at Good Friday. You're a bit like, well. So, maybe it's time to make a change. Maybe Black Friday. Do all of your Christmas shopping on Black Friday. Then, set a day the week after. Have that as Christmas that's not Christmas. You'd have to call it something else. And then, when Christmas rolls round, skip it. Skip it all. No tree, no decorations, nothing. None of that. Instead, just get everyone together. Have a nice meal. Doesn't have to be like not a Christmas meal. Just, if you want to do a roast kind of a situation. But just have a nice meal, friends and family, and do it like that. Now that I say it, I'm pretty sure I thought about this every year for the last God knows how many years. I'm just like, is there not a better way to do some of the things we do? Oh, I bought this because it's Christmas, and I'm not saying we are as bad as anybody. Our house triples the amount of food that's in the house for the festive time. But I am a man that loves a Christmas pudding. I love a Christmas pudding. Christmas pudding. Warm pudding, cold custard. I'm there. But I can tell you this much. There is a Christmas pudding in our cupboard that I'm pretty sure has been there for 2 years. Coming up. In fact, it'll be 2 years at this point in time. That should tell you everything. I love a Christmas pudding. I'll eat a Christmas pudding right here and now, right in front of you. You can watch me eat a Christmas pudding if you want. Love a Christmas pudding. But there is one in this house, and it's been there a little while. Cheese and crackers. I love a cheese. I love a cracker. I love all the cheeses and all the crackers. I don't think there's a cheese or a cracker I don't like. One of my staple foods was cheese and crackers at one point in time. Wasn't Christmas exclusive, so yeah. A Yule log. Now we're talking. Get me one right now. Again, I'll eat it. Maybe I'm just hungry. I am starting to wonder if I've lost my point. So, another thing about, again, sorry if this is triggering for anyone, another thing about the whole fast is the same question comes up, especially at the point in time where you're looking at maybe sort of breaking the fast. And something that has come up today. I always have that sort of thing that is like, oh, I'm going to pass out. That's always the one from like TV shows. This person hasn't eaten for 3 days and they pass out, and oh my God, I can't believe it. Obviously, that hasn't happened. This is, like I say, third time around for me. Other than the odd bit of hunger here and there, which, you can be managed with just drink more and stuff like that. It is sort of a trick I've used quite a bit. If you're hungry, have a drink. The question keeps coming on, is like, why stop? Why break the fast? The first time, the 13-day one, I gave up in the end because I wasn't losing any more weight and had to sort of set a new plateau, which is what I did. And sort of still at this point in time, kind of grateful for that, because that set the new low, and then you can obviously go down from there. I'm sure that at some point somebody's going to be like, yeah, but what damage have you done? It's like, I don't know. Largely, this is just one giant experiment. I know for a fact nothing was working on the other side of things. I've run and walked a combination of 10 miles today. I've worked out. I've, done all of these things. Did I lose any weight though? And yes, I understand that there is another side to that. Don't let me sort of make it sound like I'm blatantly unaware of things. Something else. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the caveman principle. Works on the principle that when we were cavemen, we would have these giant, humongous meals. You'd kill a wild animal. You'd eat and have enough meat and all that sort of stuff for days, and you'd get nice big round bellies and full tummies and all of that stuff. And then you would be without food for X amount of time. And what it works on the principle is that when it's time to hunt, your body knows that and it dials up all energy, so you can run faster, jump higher, and you are stronger for it. There have been a couple of points when I've worked out over the last week where I've really struggled. It's taken a lot longer than it normally would, and I've just really struggled to do the exercises and stuff. And there have been points in the past fasts where I've talked probably at length about the working out principle. Somebody said to me, one of the few people I've actually sort of spoken to about this fasting system, they're like, well, your body's gonna eat all of its muscle. My answer is, well, only if it thinks I don't need it. If it thinks I need it, then it'll have to go to a different source for energy, i.e. fat. Don't know if that's overly scientific. It's just what makes sense in my mental brain. And I do see muscle drop off through a fast. But, you get a few good high protein meals in there and keep working out at the same rate. Fingers crossed, it comes back. something I've noticed, other than there have been times where it's been a sort of a real drop, there have been other times, I did a run a few days ago where it seemed to be easier than previous. And today, my morning run this morning seemed not only easier, faster across the board, which obviously you've got to look at the fact I'm carrying a stone less weight. So you've got that to look at. However, when I went to work out this evening, I was very in that camp of, I don't think this is going to go too well. I'm at day 8. I've not eaten, and I know that I'm going to eat soon. I imagine my body is very much going to be like, dude, what are we doing? However, again, the opposite happened. I felt strong. I felt like the weight was light. I was able to put up, big reps, big sets, big whatever. It just seemed like quite doable, and I could definitely feel that sort of caveman energy system kicking in. But again, that's the point in time where I'm like, okay, so I'm losing weight. My workouts are easier. My run was good today. Where is the downside to this? And I get it. I know there's probably some sort of damage going on somewhere. But it does make you wonder when you've got a pros and a cons list and the pros are heavily outweighing the cons. Anyway. Something final sort of thoughts. A question. And this question is, has an update ever made anything better? Recently, I have updated my phone and my watch to the latest version of the software. My phone, not the worst, but certainly not the best. So, I think we're all aware that the new photo version is truly awful, and you have to do stuff to it to make it even remotely usable. I hate it. I think it's terrible. I just want the old version back. And that is not me being an old man. Like I say, I googled it. Everybody hates it. Outside of that, phone's not. It's just, there's just these couple of little things that when I look at them, I go, why? That is worse. It looks worse. It works not as good. Why have you done this? However, for 80-90% of the rest of the stuff, it is largely the same. Which I wish I could say for my watch. My watch has added in a feature where if you tell it to do anything and then come out of whatever you've said to do, it goes, oh, you want to go to that really annoying menu system that you've never liked every time. So earlier I was trying to do one thing. I wanted to set an alarm. Oh, this is the other thing, because now the battery just died. That's my watch. Who must have heard me talking about it? That's my watch saying that it's running out of power. So how do I get this off the screen? Why is it running out of power? It's not running anything. There we go. Here we go. There we go. Finished for the day. But running out of power. A new feature. Now my watch runs out of power on a daily basis. We're down to 10% and it's 9 o'clock in the evening. I wanted to set an alarm. I wanted to set a 15-minute alarm, I think it was. It took me 4 attempts to set an alarm. The probably second most used thing on my watch, the ability to set an alarm. I use it for absolutely everything. Cooking, working out, checking on stuff, downloading games. I use the alarm function second most to my working out app. Took me 4 attempts to set an alarm. I was screaming at the fucking thing. Honestly, did an update ever make anything better? And I don't mean like, when they update a game and it works better and it runs better and it looks better. Those aren't the sort of things. Those are like, patches sort of stuff. I mean, in this world of modern technology, do you ever get an update for something you use regularly and go, oh my God, this is so much better. It was terrible before. Now it's the best. Now it's the best version of itself. Answers on a postcard. No TV, no movie. Reason being is I watched what used to be my favourite film this week. I bought it when it was super cheap, and I've been watching it over the course of last week. It's probably 20 years old at this point in time. Probably not worth going into. So no TV, no movies. The reason there's no TV is that I really can't bring myself to watch a lot of the TV that I've got to watch at the moment. So kind of in limbo there. And outside of that, all I've really watched is American football. And I have an American football podcast, so nip there if you want to find out how the American football is going. However, on the other hand, I've been playing what would apparently be a lot of computer games. 3 flat games, I have to refer to them now as. I've been playing the game Evil West, which is a game that I got on Steam a while ago. I think I bought it very, very cheap. Played it on the Steam Deck quite a bit, thoroughly enjoyed it, and then, as with every game I play, 9 other things came in front of it and it kind of got lost. But it was a game that I frequently wanted to go back to. Funny thing is, turns out that it's on Game Pass. So I installed it to the Xbox and have been playing it on there. Yeah, does a lot, ticks a lot of boxes. But I may have spoken about it in the past, so I won't dwell too much there. Call of Duty, still, it's still there. It's taken up the best part of 100 gig on my hard drive, and every time I see that I don't have enough space to install new things, I'm a bit like, do I just get rid of Call of Duty? It needed an update the other day, and that meant that I could play other things, and I think I was kind of glad, and I've not been back to it since. So, yeah, I don't know on that one. It's not tickled my fancy enough, for want of a better way of putting it. It's fine. It's Call of Duty. It's got a campaign. That's what I'm here for. All of that. It just reeks of the multiplayer side of things, and I feel Call of Duty back before they got rid of the campaign didn't. Battlefield was the one that just from start to finish just reeked of multiplayer. The campaign was a multiplayer training facility. Unfortunately for this version of Call of Duty, bringing back the campaign, great. But you've been building a multiplayer game for the last 3 games, and now you've tried to go back a step, and it shows. So it's not grabbing me as much as I'd like it to. It has been nice to go back and play it. Like I say, I religiously played them. This time, they seem to come out in sort of November, December time every year for as many years as they did. The big flat game that I've been playing is a game that I got as part of this month's Humble Choice. I signed up to Humble Choice a few months ago because they said I could have the rest of the year for half price. I was like, sure. Last month I nearly signed up at full price, so let's do this. It has been a real mixed bag. We had a couple of really good months and then it sort of dropped off. I think it's very difficult when you're in and around sale time, especially sort of like the Steam Black Friday sale, to be able to generate a Humble Bundle. November's was not good, but then coming in on December, I felt that December might have been one of the best ones for a while, in the sense that there was something in that bundle for everybody in my house. So I have been playing Atlas Fallen. I think it's something like Rain of Sand. It's like Atlas Fallen is the game, but this Rain of Sand is like it's a free update, but I think it basically is the game. It's hard to describe. But Atlas Fallen is basically an open world game where a nameless character, you, finds a gauntlet in the middle of the desert. And the gauntlet's like, hey, I can help you fight giant monsters. And you go, cool. And from that point on, it's basically fight giant monsters, collect stuff to upgrade the gauntlet to progress through the story. I had a couple of early hiccups with it. It was like, oh, go and find this. And I was like, I don't know how to get there. And it was like, I'll show you how to get there. It's like, yeah, you show me roughly where it is, but I can't get to the bit you want me to. Going back later and looking at it again, I was like, oh, that was just me. I just didn't do something that the game had already told me to do, sort of thing. So I was a bit like, oh, okay. Again, another one of those situations. I had it on Steam. I had a look to see if it was available on the PlayStation. It was for money. However, I had a look on the Xbox and it was available on Game Pass. So, again, install it to the Xbox. Started playing on the Xbox and basically stopped playing it on Steam. And yeah, so far, really enjoying it. It did one of those things to me last night, just at the point in time that I'm trying desperately to turn it off. It was like, oh, do you want to go further forward? Because if you do, you might not be able to come back to this area. And I'm pretty sure you're leaving stuff behind. And I was like, I kind of want to go and find out what you're referring to. Some sort of monster you were talking about. But I also want to progress the game forward. I've only got a month of Game Pass and I kind of need to keep things moving. So I was a bit like, let's carry on. It was a game that early in the process, I thought it was going to be too hard. I played it. I died in one of the very first sort of monster battles. And I was a bit like, oh, it's one of those. I've selected easy, but it's still hard. Went back to it later and managed fine. Haven't had any... I've had one death in fight versus multiple deaths falling off cliffs. A couple of its interesting features are you can slide along the sand. Your movement is like, I suppose it'd be like sand surfing, or you have like a double jump and I currently have a double dash, which is very useful. It's been fun. It's been good. I'm going to keep at it for now. I have installed what is apparently one of the bigger games of the year this evening to the Xbox because it's day one Game Pass. But I'll keep the powder dry on that one for probably next week. Few things to finish up, and as will come as no surprise to long-term listeners, it's the VR section. anyone remember last week when I reviewed a VR game? I'll give you a clue. It was called Ember Souls. And I said, I almost don't want to review it and say how good it is, because then the game will turn on me and it'll be bad. That is almost exactly what happened. I was livid. I played it that evening and was getting stuck left, right, and centre. Certain controls weren't working the way they were supposed to, which meant I kept dying over and over again. I was trying to do traversal stuff, couldn't do it, kept dying. Had a puzzle situation. Every single thing I'd said to that point basically was the opposite. Everything was too difficult. And I was like, I just kept saying, this is why you don't review stuff. This is why you don't review stuff and say it's good, because then it turns on you. I've just reviewed Atlas Fallen, and all I can think now is that game's going to be awful when I go back to it. What I can say is it was a small blip in Ember Souls. After the small blip, I continued and played it up to finishing it. Honestly, I think it's been one of the best games I've played recently. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a really good time. It was a great game. It was just non-stop. This is good. One of the possibly best elements, which I'm pretty sure I forgot to mention last week, is that it has some of the worst dialogue a game has ever had. But you can tell that it's done on purpose. So it's like they've gone, we're going to really take the piss here and put terrible dialogue in. There are multiple conversations between like two of the characters, and their lines are just mental. And it's hilarious. Hands down, one of the best games I've played. There are games where you're like, that was really good, I really enjoyed that. But this, I think because it was so unexpected, this is what stood out to me recently. It was one of those, at full price, brand new, just come out, it was £20. And I will happily give you £20 again for that game. It was well worth the money. They've obviously done a series of improvements. They've obviously updated it to make it work better and so on and so forth. And it is a true chef's kiss of a game. I picked up a couple of cheap, like early access / indie type games. I think it was either through some sort of sale or just because they were new, cheap indie / games. One is Kaiju Simulator and the other is Survival Shot. Kaiju Simulator was a little bit of fun. It needs some work, and by some work I mean probably quite a bit of work. The idea is there, and the idea is great and could quite easily be a lot of fun. I was reading through like the updates that they've done to the game, and I was like, they are obviously doing some serious work to this game. So I played it and went, I think I'll come back to this at another point, because I think it needs those updates so that the real sort of core of it shines through. Survival Shot, on the other hand, was not what I thought it was going to be. That's not to say that it wasn't what it was going to be. What I wanted from it, it did not deliver. It delivered something else. What it delivered was, it's definitely been taken out of the oven too early. And I'm not overly sure what the market for it is. It's a zombie survival game. But a couple of the game modes are just like on-rail shooters that are hard because the aiming of the gun is terrible. And the other one is like, go into this village and survive with almost no weapons. It's a bit like, okay, that's sort of kind of sounds interesting, but nothing really works the way you would want it to. Everything works the way you don't want it to, and that makes it unnecessarily difficult. Again, there is something there, and I think if the developers work on it a fair amount, there'll definitely be a better game the other side of it. But yeah, just sort of a cursory mention, just to say, I do support these little games here and there. Speaking of supporting a game, Into the Radius 2 has turned off their beta for the latest update and have now put it into full game. Honestly, I was a bit annoyed, which doesn't help things. I went into play, standard game version, with the update, and all the stuff that I'd done recently wasn't there. I then remembered that I had to move my save over, which I moved over, and was glad I did, because honestly, the thought of playing from an hour in versus 4 hours in didn't fill me with joy. Again, another one of those situations where some of the updates and some of the upgrades that have been done, made, whatever, not necessarily to my liking. They're going down this particular route with these distortion zones and new equipment, which is fine. I'm all for. I haven't seen the practical use for this yet. I've seen a video where somebody's gone into a distortion zone with the headgear on and stuff, and yeah, I just don't know what this is. There was something else. They fixed a bug which I was really glad of. This one where when you try and load the shotgun, it spins round in your hand, which was super annoying. Oh, that was it. They seem to have taken all the enemies away. I went to do a mission. I was just go and pick something up, but I knew it was going to like a base area, so I went there. Absolutely chock full of enemies. I went through. I'd say probably 40% of the ammo I took with me. I had 4 different weapons. I was absolutely laying down fire. And then that was it. And to get there, I didn't come across any enemies. And to get back, I didn't come across any enemies. And I was a bit like, where are all the enemies? So I need to go back and look at the settings, because you can set the level of enemy that you want in this version of the game. So I'm a bit like, has it defaulted to a lower setting between the beta and the actual game? So yeah, I'll go back to it, but I've got other stuff. Speaking of other stuff, yesterday I got a thing pop up saying that the game Bulletstorm VR was on a 1-day 40% off sale. I went, oh, fine. That's a game that was reviewed terribly when it was released, so who's going to care? Clicked on the link anyway, obviously, because, it's worth having a look. And as it turned out, 40% made it a sort of a reasonable price. And then, being on the page, there was a load of reviews. And all of the reviews were, this game has been updated from its original version to the version it is now. And it's a lot better. It's loads better. It's exactly as it was supposed to be, and so on and so on. And that was all the reviews. Reviews that had originally been posted had been updated to say this has now been fixed, it's now better, it plays better, etc. I was like, go on then, I'll give you 14 quid for it. Especially if I can get discount off that as well. Wink, wink. So, I bought Bulletstorm VR. A negative straight off the bat. I don't know how to explain it. I've never experienced this before. I don't know what it is. But the cutscenes made me feel sick. I know, right? A guy who doesn't really experience sickness in VR was feeling sick before the game had even started because of the way the cutscenes are presented. So, don't know about that. Hope that gets fixed. Oh my word. Yeah, bad. On the other hand, I can't say I noticed any major issues with it. It played real well. It played real nice. It's got the original voice work from the original game, which has got Steve Bloom as the main character of of Wolverine fame. And yeah, enjoyable. I was unlocking like all the bits that you need to play the game the way it's supposed to be played, so you can get all the points. It's a game that works on a style system, so you get more points for the more stylish way of killing people, shooting them, kicking them, throwing them into stuff, etc. One of its controls is a little bit weird. You press back on the right stick to kick, but obviously the right stick is used to look around, so you accidentally catch the kick button quite a bit. Do wonder why that was the choice for control, but meh. So there we go. Another podcast done. Sorry if anybody was in any way offended by the fasting stuff, but it is sort of an update with what's been going on over the last week. So, that is it for this one. I will catch you next time. So there we go. What do you think of that? As I've said all the way through, any apologies, there are apologies. This is just what I am doing at the moment. I am not a doctor. I do not recommend this to anybody, even me. But this is just an update with the way things are at the moment, or have been up to this point. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And before you leave, you could, if you wanted to, like, share, subscribe, comment. If you've got a little bit of time, a little bit of time available, you can maybe leave a review where you can leave reviews. And do check out the website, thecookiecast.com. We've got some social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of CookieCast.